welcome on back to the Fourth and 30 podcast. We got another good one for you this week. PGA Championship's about to kick off or tee off, kick off. Good Lord, a little ways from football season here.
We can only
but
hope.
about to tee off. So we got some of those picks for you. And then we got some kind of best of. So, a little coaching, a little athletes, maybe a little unis. You'll notice two of us are wearing Hornets gear and they got a little throttled, but I've got a solution for that. So one second. That's better.
Hey, that's really funny you did that, Carl.
No way.
Gosh, no way.
There we go, baby.
Oh my gosh.
Repping the crew.
Jeez.
Repping the crew.
Oh,
So
my
we
goodness.
picked the correct winners tonight, as you can see. So no need to go back and double check anything. But we'll jump right into it. I do want to point out something just real quick. One off. At one point, in the Angels' history, they can say they had the best player of the 2000s, the best player of the 2010s, and potentially the best player of the 2020s on the team on the roster at the same time. Pujols, Trout, and Ohtani.
Mm-hmm.
That might turn out pretty darn cool.
And they can also say they didn't do anything with either three of them, but that's what
correct.
Anaheim does to
Time will
franchise
tell.
teams.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. But the first two of those, Pujols and Trout, are unarguably the best of those decades.
And
But anyway,
Ohtani has the expressway, the Autobahn to that for the 2020s.
he is off to a good start. Yeah. But we'll dive into the PGA Championship here. So it's at Kiowa down there in South Carolina this time. We should have had Wilt on the podcast, but
if anybody
down
knows
there-
Josh,
We'll save him for
Wilt,
2024 when the
Valhalla.
PG when it's at Valhalla. Yeah, he'll provide some good insight
we're
there.
gonna save him for 3 years.
Justin Wilt. If anybody knows Justin Wilt, get him on the podcast, please.
But so it is a Kiowa Ocean Course, 10 Oceanside holes in that figure 8 configuration down there. I have actually always liked the way that course looks. It's a little linksy for a American course, so that's kind of cool. But Kyler, who do you have coming out on top this week and maybe a dark horse?
Well, this is an interesting course. If you've the wind it's the longest course ever played for a PGA event at 7,876 yards. It was originally back in 2012 the longest ever at 7,600 yards, but a couple courses have surpassed that recently. So they wanted to take the cake again. They extended some holes and made it the longest possible. So when you think longest possible, your mind goes to Bryson DeChambeau. And the wind is very brutal at this course. It's right on the ocean, like you said. The wind's brutal. And, you figure if Bryson hits well with his driver and has, a wedge into the greens versus other players are hitting a middle iron of the greens, you think he might have an advantage there. But I'm going to go with Xander Schauffele. The dude keeps inching closer and closer to getting a major, and I really like the kid, and I'd like to see him win. So,
well, you're a butthole, so that was my number one pick. But I'll go down the list. So, sportsbook I'm on has Xander at plus 1,600. I'm actually going to go, and I kind of hate to say this guy, but I do think he sets up well for Kiowa. Patrick Reed at plus 3,300. He sets up well. So, if you're looking for a 1-2 punch, those would be my top two. And then dark horse this week, I really think Matthew Fitzpatrick makes some noise at plus 5,000. He might be a value pick down there. He might surprise you.
I don't know a whole lot about this course other than it's really long from what I've read. But is there a lot of good places to cheat? Is that why you have Patrick Reed up there, or
you're on the beach, bud.
Cheater,
Corona,
pumpkin eater like Patrick
little-
Reed.
you
Different
can
Corona.
blame his ball moving on the wind here, so he might get away with it.
Yeah, different Corona.
I'm going to go with DeChambeau. He was my pick for the last one. That didn't work out very well. But he hits the long ball, longest course they played so far. The wind could be a downfall for him, but I'm going to go with DeChambeau. I'm going to ride it till he wins one. We might be in 2025 before my pick comes right, but I might say DeChambeau for everyone from here on out.
So when we said we were going to talk about this, I'm not going to lie. What I did was I looked up the odds of who was going to win. Saw my boy from the last tournament was the favorite to win, and I said, Rory McIlroy, I'm riding with you again, bud. So hopefully Rory comes through for me this time because he's the favorites to win, and I'm going with him again.
I definitely think he has a better chance to make the cut at Kiowa than he
Yeah,
does.
hopefully he can make the cut at least.
I
to make
think
to avoid making like an
He
idiot.
was the last player to win at Kiowa, win a PGA championship there. So
I think it's
2014.
very interesting that they have him as the favorite with all his. He did win the last tournament he played in, but with his swing troubles and the length of this course and the wind is going to be a huge factor. It's going to be. There's not going to be a whole. You don't think that anybody's going to get to 10 under in this thing, and it's going to be somebody who can play some pretty steady golf. So that kind of makes me think DeChambeau is not a good pick, but a dark horse for me. The guy played so steady in his at the Masters is Happy Gilmore's caddy, Will Zalatoris. I think steady and steady golf's going to win this thing. It's not going to be you're not going to go real low here. So
That was I wouldn't put any money on him to win, but that's one guy I hope wins one soon. Just from watching him at only the Masters, Zalatoris was fun to watch. Seemed like a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. Happy Gilmore's caddy. So you have to root for him.
yeah. So one thing I also don't want people to be surprised if Brooks Koepka wins it. So like he's hurt, coming off that surgery, whatever. But if his past in PGA championships is anything, like he's got a good shot. So, but that's enough golf. We'll cover that again when we get past it. But we're gonna move on into some best of. Maybe just maybe a little bit of GOAT. You never know.
are you going to hang that baby up or?
Well, maybe in a year or two. Who knows? Gotta have real estate, man. Turkey, gobble gobble, bitch. But
Really, the
So-
turkey gets the first curse word out of you.
well, the first non-cut curse word, yeah. So would you guys like to go coach a particular sport athlete or uniform off the jump?
Let's start with coach because that's the top of my notes.
Very good. We will
So-
start with. You don't have notes. Shut the hell up.
Yeah, I do this time. I'm prepared tonight, dude. We got this night recording now. It's on. Had all day to prepare. So mine isn't a hot take, but I don't know if many people will have him. Carl, you might, but Coach Pop is my Popovich from San Antonio. Is my all-time greatest coach. Okay,
That's kind of a hot take.
X's and O's wise, there's nobody better in the sport of basketball. You could argue Bill Belichick or maybe some of the older coaches in football, but X's and O's, Pop is it. He brought a dynasty to San Antonio, which is about as small market as you can get, and they're one of the most popular teams in the NBA, dealing with such a small market, and so he's won 4 championships, and he's lost 2 in Game 7. So for anybody who doesn't, he's won 5? Okay, I stand corrected. Popovich has won 5. He's lost 2 in Game 7, which there's 2 kinds of people in this world. There's people who are rational and understand that getting to the finals and making it a run in the finals or whatever is a good thing, and they like LeBron James normally. And then there's people who try to rationalize that making it to the finals is somehow worse than not making the playoffs at all. And they're usually LeBron James haters. But Popovich has had 2 Game 7s in the finals where he's lost, but I mean, you don't get any closer to that. That's success to me. That's a good season. That's the makings of a great coach. He's made some superstars out of guys who probably wouldn't be superstars in another role. Tony Parker and Manu Ginobili
Your
are 2
French lady,
guys.
yeah.
Yeah, Tony Parker, who I hate, Manu Ginobili, who I think is awesome. But my big thing for Pop is how he's influenced the sports world when it comes to diversity and integration of all people, of all races, all genders, all everything. There's nobody more active for him or active in the community for him whether it comes to Becky Hammond being the first woman to head coach a basketball game for sure. I think a professional sports game, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But definitely the first female coach for a NBA game when he stepped aside one night to let her take the reins because he had full confidence in her, not as a publicity stunt. And then he's always activating for people of different races, people of different backgrounds to get their shot instead of just your stereotypical male who's been in the sport forever. And so that's why Pop's number one for me.
Well, he's always been a great evaluator of international talent
Exactly.
by a lot. Like
He's
nobody's
done-
even in the same ballpark.
He's done it
as
a
him.
lot for international basketball, just about as much as Yao Ming did.
No, I'm not going to disagree with you. So
We know you're not. Is that who you had as your greatest coach of all time?
no, I tried to stay with baseball because I knew you guys were going to be basketball heavy, probably.
I almost wasn't basketball heavy, but since you guys opened up the college ranks, I'm going Gino Uriema. Has 11
Yes,
national
good call.
championships. Has, I think, 15 Final Four appearances, if I'm not correct. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, he has more than that.
He's got a lot of them. Yeah.
He's got 18, 19 Final Four appearances, 11 national championships. To say that he's dominated the world of college basketball would be the understatement of the century. I mean, everything he's done is speak for itself. People have gotten to the point where they say college basketball is unfair because he's coaching UConn. And actually, recently, he hasn't won in, 5 years or something like that? But still, regardless, the last 1, 2, 3, 4 tournaments, he's made the Final Four and not won a national championship, and that's been considered not good for him.
Yeah.
So that just tells you
That's
how good
crazy.
he's been. Just completely dominated the sport of girls college basketball. My runner-up was actually current college coach too as well, Nick Saban, but I went with Uriema on this one.
Okay, well, since you mentioned Nick Saban, we all see what he did in the NFL. So he, in my eyes, can't be considered one of the greats because Belichick is clearly a better coach than him. So I'll throw that out there. But I'm
Greatest
going
at
with
their sport. Greatest at their
greatest
sport.
of all time. I'm
college
going with
football.
John Wooden. The guy won 10 championships at UCLA. Obviously, he's an obvious choice, but he won 7 in a row during a 7-year period, and no other team has ever won more than 4 in a row. Gino Uriema, that's a good pick, but John Wooden winning 10 and winning 7 in a row is the icing on the cake for me.
Actually looked at
Wow.
Wooden. The only reason why I went with Uriema is because he's done it longer. Wooden was basically the 70s. He
He
dominated.
basically had a 12-year period
Yeah,
where he won
He
10
basically
championships.
just let
Had
nobody
he
beat
coached
him.
longer, it's unknown how many championships he would
To
have won.
me, Oriema's is more impressive because it's in the modern era, and we know what nutrition and and sports fitness and stuff, the leaps and bounds it's taken since the 70s, or 60s, whenever that was. So Oriema takes that kind of nod to me just because of how far athletes have come in the last 50 years. But I'm going to throw to baseball, and I'm going to give you my number 2 guy just to make Kyler smile, Bobby Cox. So Bobby Cox was electric, dude. So nobody got into an argument with an ump like Bobby Cox. He's unrivaled in that department. And like as far as winning your division every year in the MLB, nobody can touch what Bobby Cox did with the Braves from
Was
the
it
early 90s to the mid
17 or
2000s.
18 straight? Isn't that what it ended up being? 15?
15.
Yeah, 15.
And so they only have one World Series to show for it, but they lost 2 World Series in Game 7s. So to your point, they got there. And one of those World Series, they lost in extras in Game 6 and Game 7. So like they were in it, they just couldn't get it done. So yeah, you could make the argument that they fell apart in the playoffs because he made the playoffs so many times. But that makes him one of the best to ever do it. But who I think eclipses him, and it's a little homer, but I'm not going to pick an old Yankee. There's plenty of those you could pick. You got Joe Torre in the 90s. I'm not picking a Yankee. Tony La Russa. So La Russa, no, you guys shake your head, do whatever you want.
Do I
There's
cut
only
the,
two.
do I
There's
cut
only
the
2
recording
guys in the
now?
history of the MLB that have won in the AL and the NL, and La Russa is one of those guys. He has one of the highest winning percentages of all time. He's coached some of the best players there is and got them to actually perform. So La Russa, to me, is the best baseball manager of all time.
I'm gonna write this down because I'm surprised Kelsey didn't say Andy Reid.
I'm surprised you didn't say Mike Tomlin, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't say Ben Roethlisberger. To be honest.
Well, for me, for you two down there, I'm very surprised one of the North Carolina coaches didn't come up.
Roy
Oh,
Williams,
trust me, I tried. I
or
tried.
not
Actually,
to
for
say-
any of you three,
Dean
I
Smith.
can't
tried
even
to
say
say-
that Coach K has been the best coach in the ACC over the last 5 years, let alone of all time.
here you go. All right, you three, let's go at it. Best coach in the ACC
of all
Okay, I'm
time.
gonna say Coach K.
all time.
I mean, I would make the argument for Roy Williams. The problem is Coach K's been there since '88. I mean, it's kind
What-
of
Roy Williams' resume is just as good, but he coached at Kansas, so that takes him out of the running.
That's
for
kind of the
however long he
problem,
coached at
yeah.
Kansas.
I would say
What
Coach K. I mean, Coach
Wasn't
K's
there a
Coach
guy at UNC for like 30 years in the
Dean
Dean
Smith,
Smith,
but,
yeah.
but it's kind of hard to make that argument. Coach K. I mean, I'm just being honest. Coach K's been a little bit more successful at Duke, as far as national championships go, than Dean
Dean
Smith was.
Smith was in my 5 when I was narrowing it down to who I thought the GOAT was. Dean Smith and Coach K both were.
If Roy Williams had coached at North Carolina his whole career, I think I would pick Roy Williams. I think since he's been in North Carolina, I think he's been more successful than Coach K, and that's not trying to hate on Coach K, but I think he has. But Coach K's coached at Duke since
well, when you
88,
have
89.
when you have two coaches that
It was the
can,
mid '80s. Mid '80s.
when you have two guys who have been in the ACC that you can legitimately argue are the greatest coaches of all time, it's not a disrespect to either one of them if you pick the other one, because
Right.
it's not taken away from how great they are individually.
I think
So
the
in-
three
in
coaches
my
we just named,
research-
though, could be all top 5 of all time in college basketball, honestly.
In my research today, I did come across a pretty interesting guy that I actually did not know about before, and I'm just going to read this verbatim. So the guy's name is Paul Brown. His high school football teams lost only 10 games in 11 seasons. His Ohio State Buckeyes won their first national title in 1942, and his Browns, which were naturally named after him, reached the league championship game in each of his first 10 seasons, winning 7 of them. So that is a pretty good football record at every level of it. He was also the first to administer intelligence tests and the first to take play calling abilities from his quarterback. Brown sparked the maturation of the blossoming game. He was also the first person to watch film of a game. So, like, a lot of the things that happen in football today are because of that guy. So, like, a guy from the 30s and 40s and 50s, you would never think to know him, and I wouldn't have known him before that, but, like, seems like he's pretty darn good at coaching the sport, if you ask me.
Yeah,
That's some interesting knowledge there.
that's a Carl drop for you right there.
That's a hot Carl drop.
So here, just sidetrack a little bit. You were talking about records in sports. This year, assuming Jacksonville doesn't go 17-0, will be Trevor Lawrence's first ever regular season loss. He did not
Mark
lose
it
in
down week 1.
He did not lose in high school, and he did not lose in college in the regular season.
Who do
This
they
will-
play week
That's
1?
crazy.
Doesn't
The
matter.
Texans at Houston.
Oh, they might
Yeah.
win that.
Yeah.
He might extend that streak by one game.
Depends
Well,
on
not
Deshaun
if
Watson
Tebow
the
wins
game.
the starting job, then it'll still be fine.
Here we go. Carl's going to be the lead of the people trying to push for Tebow as the starter.
If
Well,
you
he's got
can't
his-
Always,
differentiate
always in the
between
media.
Hey, you know
if
where
you
always
can't
in the media.
differentiate between satire and real talk, then I'm sorry. But
It's always
All
the
right.
media pushing the agenda.
well, speaking of athletes, let's move on to the best athlete in a particular sport. So there's, you got any of the sports here. You got basketball, football, baseball, hockey, soccer, swimming, track and field, whatever you want. The world is your oyster. Kelsey, who is your best athlete at their sport? I'm very confident I know where you're going here.
No, you don't. You
Wayne
have no clue where
Gretzky.
I'm going. How'd you know I was going to say Wayne Gretzky?
You're a Wayne Gretzky stan, dude. I knew it.
So actually, speaking of Tim Tebow, he was actually one of
Oh,
the people I
Jesus.
almost said, but I did not say it.
leading the world to think Tebow's going to play quarterback.
So the reason I actually am going Wayne Gretzky, you could have said Serena Williams, you could have said Tiger Woods. I was trying to think outside the box. I figured everyone would go football or basketball. Gretzky, if he didn't score a single goal in the NHL, he would have led the NHL all time in points still because of assists. That's just an incredible stat to me. I mean, same thing with Gretzky. I mean, he pretty much dominated the NHL his entire, I think it was 16-year career or whatever. Um, I mean, that stat alone is what gets me with it.
Yeah, when you go that hard that every team in the league retires your number, like
Yeah.
you did something right.
Mhm.
And he has
Right.
more assists than anybody in the history of hockey has goals. Like that's just dumb.
Has
Dumb.
goals and assists combined.
Yeah, that's a little
Yeah.
bit ridiculous. But here's where you're wrong. I'm going with Ben Roethlisberger. No,
Oh,
No, you're
here
not.
we go.
Michael Phelps.
F's in the chat.
Michael Phelps, 28 career medals, 23 of them, 23 golds. 13 of those golds were individual. Greatest Olympian of all time. And when you think about sports, Olympics got to be up there near the top. I'm going with Michael Phelps.
Now let me tell you why Carmelo Anthony is the greatest athlete or the greatest Olympian of all time.
Surprised you didn't say Tracy McGrady.
Well, he didn't play much in the Olympics, but okay, so when I was going through this, initial reaction, basketball, football, baseball. Basketball, you have MJ, LeBron. I'm one of those guys. Kobe comes in third. Kobe comes in third for me, just right behind those guys. But I'm not doing that. For football, for me, the greatest player to play the game was Peyton Manning, but that's not it either. So then I was like, well, baseball's been around a long time. You got your obvious answers like Babe Ruth and whatnot. So mentioning those guys, Pujols came up as he had the greatest 10-year stretch of all time, bar none, which puts you in the GOAT conversation. Mike Trout's already in that conversation. Could have looked to the future and said Ohtani, which we've mentioned all three of those guys earlier in the podcast, which I didn't know was going to happen. And then I really broke it down. And when you come to dominance of a sport, that leaves, other than Wayne Gretzky, it leaves Serena Williams and Tiger Woods. And I'm going to say Tiger Woods just because I know more about Tiger Woods. I've watched more of Tiger Woods, but that's no slight to what Serena Williams has done. So I'm going to say Tiger Woods just because of how he dominated that sport for so long. You went out every Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You were playing against Tiger Woods. You had to beat Tiger Woods. You weren't playing the field. You weren't playing some random guy. You were playing Tiger Woods. You can say the same for Serena, because she was dominant for so long as well. But my choice for the GOAT to a sport, if you consider golf a sport, is Tiger Woods.
Why wouldn't it be?
So like that you brought
Because
up
John
the field
Daly
thing.
plays it.
John Daly's the GOAT. I forgot about him.
You brought up the field thing, and that is a very good point with Tiger. So like when you're looking at other sports, you're always comparing an athlete to somebody else. So Ruth to Aaron, or Jordan to LeBron. It's literally
Or
Tiger
Kobe.
versus the field. Like there's no singular person you can stack up there. So yeah, you might be about to say the Golden Bear. No, like he didn't play at a time, and he wasn't near as dominant. Yeah, he won more majors than anybody else, but he didn't have near the dominance over the game that Tiger had for that long.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm actually going to go boxing here. So back when boxing actually mattered, and it wasn't, just there wasn't 18 different weights and all this stuff. When the heavyweight title meant something, Joe frickin' Louis was the man. So he had 25 consecutive title defenses of his heavyweight title, most of all time. He held the heavyweight championship for 140 straight months. 140. That's a decade, folks. That's over a
11
decade.
years, 8 months.
That
Forever.
that he was the best heavyweight boxer in the freaking world. So yeah, that is hands down best heavyweight boxer
Good
to
pick.
ever walk there.
Did he ever lose
But
a
if
Did he
him
ever
and
lose
Mike
a fight?
Tyson were in the same ring,
Well,
would
he
he win?
eventually did.
Yeah, well, Floyd Money Mayweather never did.
Hey, he's
Yeah.
got a fight coming up. He might lose that one.
Got your hat.
His brother's got your hat.
Shout out Jake Paul, you're a
I-
douche and I hate you.
I can't ever figure out
But
which one
Julia
of those
Rose.
turds is which one. Like it, I just don't know.
Yeah, we're not giving them any more airtime. All right, we moving on to uniform now.
Yeah, do your uniform.
Okay, just best sports uniform. So once again, like with everything, when it came to picking a GOAT of something, I had to narrow it down little by little. I went to football. For me, is the Ravens all black uniforms, just murdered out with the purple and gold in there. Great uniforms. Love the color scheme. They go hard with the Raven on the side. Then I was thinking about baseball. You got the nostalgia throwbacks with the 90s Diamondbacks with the little tribal stuff down the side or on them, and the big A with the diamond or the Diamondback coming out of it. And then the classic, the blue Cubs with the gray pants. I'm a big fan of gray uniforms. The blue, I love when the Cubs have their blue uniforms.
That's not even
on.
the Cubs' best uniform.
Yes, it is. The white
They're
pinstripes
whites
are
with the
not it.
stripes.
No.
You're
So then it led me to the all-time greatest decade of uniforms, and that's the 90s NBA uniforms.
This is one
That's
thing
all
me and you always agree on. This is
You
one
go.
thing me and you always agree on.
The Rockets blue with the pinstripes, the Hawks with the big hawk, the Raptors with the raptor on it, the Pacers pinstripes, the Bulls pinstripes, the Magic pinstripes, the Suns with the great big sun. I mean, they were almost all great. The
You
Grizzlies.
missed two great
The Nuggets.
You didn't
The
even
Nuggets,
mention the
rainbows.
Seattle Supersonics.
No, when they switched to that dark green, that was awful.
Oh, I loved them.
the
But-
Nuggets rainbows, the Spurs Fiesta,
The Spurs Fiesta is great.
and then the Utah Jazz with the mountain landscape
No,
on it. The purples.
doesn't make the list.
Yes, I do.
But you want one? But so anyway, when it comes down to it, when you talk 90s basketball and you narrow it down, the Heat red jerseys. But the Hornets had the best three set of uniforms there was. They had the white, the green, and the purple. And the initial reaction is the purple because they're the rarest, but the white just takes the cake for me. The white had the teal and the purple pinstripes in it. Just there's nothing better than the Hornets uniforms. Me and Carl, we had this conversation. We didn't know until playing 2K one night that the shorts didn't have pinstripes. The jersey had pinstripes and the shorts didn't.
We
which
were flummoxed. We were just like, where the
just-
hell are the
just
pinstripes?
adds another layer of the greatness of that uniform. And the color scheme is just top notch. I threw my Hornets hat, so I don't know where it went, but you got the purple, the teal, the white. It's 10 out of 10.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah, finally, I think.
So me and you always agree on this. 90s basketball had the greatest uniforms. I'm actually going to go with the one I mentioned, the Nuggets. I like the white uniforms though, personally. The white were my favorite with the rainbow and the mountains on them. That's definitely my favorite uniforms. The Hornets are great. I mean, you mentioned all kinds of great uniforms, but the 90s basketball had the best uniforms, and I don't think it's close.
The 90s Nuggets was a Carl Wallace special back on 2K.
Mm-hmm.
That was a
I
Mutombo.
loved those uniforms. Those were beautiful.
But so the GOAT jersey of all time. And this is the best selling, and I don't even have to look it up. You guys can fact check me on this. I haven't looked it up. I don't know, but I'm very confident that I know.
What a red
Best-selling-
Michael Jordan jersey.
American sports jersey of all time is the Yankees. And it's really not even in the discussion. So both their whites and grays, the pinstripes. The pinstripes are iconic. They just are. you go around the world, the Yankees are iconic, and so that makes it. They haven't changed their uniforms in over 100 years. Like it just works. So when you go worldwide, if I didn't narrow it down to the America, you're gonna have some Fly Emirates stuff, Ronaldo and Messi and all that. Like you're gonna have some soccer jerseys that are probably more popular. But best jersey of all time to me is the Yankees. And I hate to say it because I hate the Yankees, but it's just an iconic freaking jersey.
Kyle, what do you got?
Well, I really like the Rockets. No, I agree. 90s basketball has the best, but I'm going to throw a flyer out here and, just say that as far as current jerseys go, I really like the Rockets 90s NBA jersey. Those are probably my favorite of all time. But as far as current, and no one mentioned NFL because, honestly, they're kind of boring with their jerseys. Something about the Chargers powder blue uniforms I really like.
Mm-hmm.
And the NFL finally did something with the color rush jerseys, and I think they should wear those more often. I really like, obviously I like the Steelers color rush, but the Chargers, I think, have the best uniforms in the NFL.
So I got a couple things. Just while we're sitting here talking about uniforms, is number one is way underrated is minor league baseball uniforms.
Just logos in general.
Yes,
They have
baseball
some great logos.
baseball
Great
in general can be kind of boring, but I feel like MLB does a good job with how boring baseball jerseys can be. NFL jerseys are just boring. There's not much to them. There's not much for logos. It's usually just a couple colors, some stripes on the sleeve, maybe some stripes on the shoulder, numbers. That's it, and a name. NBA has always been very progressive in letting teams do pretty much whatever they want with the uniforms within reason. Slap a logo wherever you want, use whatever colors you want. The MLB's kind of doing that this year with letting teams wear off-colored uniforms, which I think is a good thing. I'm not particularly a fan of all of them, but there's some okay ones out there. The ones I believe it's one of the Florida teams is going to wear. I think the Marlins are wearing the Sugar
Marlins
Canes
have nice uniforms.
or Sugar
Yeah,
Kings,
those just
Sugar
came out.
Kings uniforms. Those look nice.
They
But
do look
one of the most underrated one, and I wear them in the show, is the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Their logo is literally a raccoon coming out of a trash can, and they're called the Rocket City Trash Pandas. Powder blue and black and red, which is a great combination. And then anytime you slap a raccoon in a trash can as your logo, that's money.
Yeah, it's a winner.
There's the
Minor league baseball does a great job.
there's the team that has the marsh or the s'more as their logo. I don't even know what their name is. There's the Chattanooga Lookouts, which are just two humongous eyeballs. Like there's just so many great minor league teams.
If you're a fan of like the neon colors, the Fireflies, minor league baseball team for the Mets, they have some really cool jerseys.
So
So
go ahead,
D-League
Phil.
hockey's in the same way. The Fire Ants.
Fire Ants,
You
yeah.
remember the Fire Ants logo?
Yep, big old.
Do I have that? I don't have it
I have a
down here.
Kansas City Mavericks.
haven't even
shirt
mentioned the
and
soccer-
hat upstairs because
soccer jerseys.
Indiana.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To me, a soccer jersey like Fly Emirates is, who is it? Is that Arsenal? Are they Fly Emirates?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't either.
I'm
Because
out
you're gonna
with
have
soccer.
you're
I
gonna
can
you're gonna
see
have
jersey in my head.
Arsenal. You're gonna have Man U.
Man City has that North Carolina color scheme. Always.
Yeah,
works.
but
White,
it's
blue, and black.
I think they're still a little bit far behind. But Messi made the Argentina jersey super popular
Mhm.
around the world. The blue and white.
Light blue
Stripe,
and white.
yeah,
so-
the
with
North
black
Carolina
on-
color scheme.
also.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
It just goes together. So we
Is there-
Um,
is there a
speaking
way
of
to
which,
kick you outta here?
Speaking of which, North Carolina has some sweet white with a blue diamond down the side.
Mhm.
Those are
Argyle.
nice. The football team, other than the Chargers, that everyone's going to hate me for about saying this, the Seattle Seahawks color rush uniforms. I like a lot of the LA Rams uniforms, the blue and yellow. Everyone hated their new uniforms, and I even like those. Now, the navy blue and yellow was terrible.
Yeah,
But the
well, and
royal
that's the
blue and
thing
yellow is
is
great.
their jerseys were still gold and the helmets were yellow, or vice versa.
Yeah, I pointed that out to you one
Oh,
year.
that-
They
that-
did they like half changed it and didn't fully change it for
Yeah.
1 year.
So you talking about that is I think football has some of the worst jerseys. And I'm not talking about the ones the Broncos in Pittsburgh wears once a year or Green Bay. I'm talking about current football uniforms. Who has the worst?
Just their normal uniforms.
Just their, yeah.
Probably the Browns, man. Brown and
Those
orange
are
just
pretty
doesn't
bad.
work.
Yeah.
Those are pretty bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
brown
don't
and
know why they
orange just
haven't
doesn't
looked at
work. So mine is pretty much the NFC North. The Packers and the Bears both. I don't like green. I don't care a whole lot for yellow, and they just don't work together. They're boring. And then the Bears, navy blue and orange, just no. Just those two
But
uniforms.
because
just,
the bulk color's navy, I think they get away with it though.
yeah. And
Those
they,
Detroit like silvery gray ones, those are
Mhm.
garbage.
Yeah, they're terrible.
and in researching uniforms to make sure I wasn't missing anything, the Lions black uniforms they wear about once a year are renownedly hated, and I think they're awesome. I love those uniforms.
I
But-
think you have a soft spot for black uniforms
Oh,
though.
yeah.
You always kind of
And,
have.
and you're
Oh,
like
yeah.
10 years late on that. Black uniforms were cool 10 years ago.
No, he was in on it 10 years ago. He was trying to
Oh.
convince North Shelby to do it, and they
Yeah.
wouldn't let him.
Cut down.
Weaver always begs for the Chiefs to get a black uniform. I want them to get a yellow uniform, yellow with red writing.
All right. Well, that wraps up uniform athletes and coaches. So, who's got a topic that can rile us up to finish us off here?
I think Kelsey had a good one with best sports movie.
Oh man, that's a heavy topic.
Let's stick to one sport this week. One sport. Pick a sport, and then we'll do best sport movie.
But we can't do hockey because that's there. It's not even a debate.
Well, you
I
have,
bet-
Which,
I
which one
guarantee-
of the three?
but you also have
Mm.
Miracle on Ice.
I was gonna say there's still Miracle.
There's
No.
one other movie.
Okay, does anybody in Miracle
football.
on Ice do the knuckle puck?
No,
No,
but they
then
beat
it's-
the Ruskies though. So
Yeah, well, the Swedes are just, or Iceland is pretty much the Ruskies of the Mighty Ducks.
Iceland. Okay, go football.
football movie.
Mm.
Well, hands
Off
down
the
for me,
dome.
it's Remember the Titans.
Yeah.
Dang, I thought there would be some debate on this, but yeah, that's mine too.
We
Oh,
Are Marshall
no.
was a darn good movie.
Oh, no, boys. You guys, see,
Little
we
Giants.
can't, yep,
The
Little Giants. I
Replacements.
was
I
going to
knew you were gonna
say,
get Little Giants.
we
I
can't
knew
do
somebody would
this.
say it.
You can't do this off the dome because you forget about gyms like the Little Giants.
The
The
Replacements.
dude from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids beating up on his big brother who's a jackass, like, and Spike leaving cleat marks up girls' backs, like, and then they come back and
miles
win.
of heart, Carl.
The annexation of Puerto Rico.
And
I
Computer
always
Blue.
identified with that kid. Yeah.
The Replacements is great. Miles and Miles of Heart. Shane Falco. Friday Night Lights is
Any
great.
Given
Night
Sunday.
Lights.
Any Given Sunday is great. The Blind Side's good.
Waterboy.
You guys are free. Oh, here's the best football movie of all time, hands down. Adam Sandler, The Longest Yard.
Oh, The Longest Yard's great.
You could do Adam Sandler sports movies just on their own. Will Ferrell and Adam Sandler sports movies just on their own.
Oh, Will Ferrell's might be. I don't know.
He's
Big
got one of
Green or-
each. He
Big
even has
Green
ice
or
skating,
Kicking
dude.
and Screaming. Which one? Big Green or Kicking and Screaming?
What was the
I
The
think the best
basketball.
football game of all time
No, I'm
would
talking about soccer.
be
Big Green
inmates
or Kicking and Screaming.
inmates versus guards. I think that could be the best football game of all
what
time.
about what was the Disney soccer movie where Miley Cyrus or whoever it was or not Miley Cyrus, the girl from
He's
All
the
That.
Man.
He's
Amanda
the man.
Bynes.
Amanda Bynes.
She's the
yeah.
man. That's not in there. Big Green or Kicking and Screaming has to
All
be
right,
the
so
best
so
movie.
God.
football movie. We had Remember the Titans.
Little
we
Giants.
had Little Giants.
The
What else?
Replacements.
The
Well,
Replacements.
soccer technically
Friday
is
Night
called
Lights.
football in other countries, so
Football though.
Football.
football, not football.
Football.
Friday Night Lights. We Are Marshall.
Friday Night Lights. Ooh, see, we
Man,
can't really
I
stuff off the dome.
it's just got to be Remember the Titans though. Like if you can watch Remember the Titans and not like just want to get out there and just pop somebody, I mean, you're just
What
lying.
about what about in Friday Night Lights where they're doing the typical 80s movie thing where they're flashing this and that, and then they're playing the inspirational music in the background when they're on the way to state to play Dallas Carter, and that that'll
Was a
get
catch.
you. Do what?
It was a catch. That's Friday Night Lights when he didn't catch the ball. Dallas
Oh.
Carter didn't catch the ball, and the ref's like, it was a catch.
Okay.
No, but let me tell you a story about a
Oh my
guy
gosh, you
in
dropping it, dude.
Virginia. A guy in Virginia who got hired to coach football at this school. You know, it was
He basically
segregated,
ended race. Yeah, he ended segregation by himself.
desegregated it, and taught a group of kids to get along while coaching football. Is that just
It's a
not?
beautiful
That
movie.
didn't just tickle your heart a little bit?
Was it really the coach,
Wrong
or
side.
was it Sunshine and Preacher Man? I give more credit to Preacher Man than the coach.
I think it was the linebackers. When they came together,
Yeah.
that's when it all came together.
Right
So-
side, strong side.
Your best uniform. I want two things from you this time. I want your best uniform, and dig as deep as you want. Google around, find one you just want off the top of your dome, or one that you research into. Don't care. And I am actually going to scroll through all the comments on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and I'm going to pick which uniform I thought was the best from you guys. And I'm also going to tell you that you're stupid for picking the wrong movie if you don't pick the one I like. So I think that's going to wrap it up for us here on 4th and 30 podcast this week. It was a little all over the place, but we're in the doldrums sports world. Next week or whenever we do, I'm about to have a baby, so whenever we do the next
Tomorrow.
one, yeah, in a couple days. Whenever we do the next one, the PGA Championship will be over. We'll be full into the NBA playoffs. Got some play-in games happening literally right now,
And baseball will still be in the boring part of the season.
and baseball will still be playing baseball. But until then, I need you guys to be good out there. Don't forget to leave us those comments so I can go through them and pick one of you guys as special, and then roast the hell out of the rest of you guys. And be good out there and tell your grandma.
Blazers in 6.